All right, greetings everybody, and welcome to week number 8. That is right, week number 8 of your 9489 class, which is your cultural heritage class. As always, I'm your professor, Dr. J.S.K. Austin, and what we are going to do this week is we are going to have a state of the course update, and then after that state of the course update, I'm going to talk a little bit about war and the implications for cultural heritage there, because it looks like we are headed to military conflict, which is always not fun. It's not fun for the loss of life. It's also not fun for the loss of heritage. Now, we do have an actual module about this later on in the class, so I shouldn't be talking about this too much. Hopefully, I will keep this video 25 minutes or less unsped, which means sped up, it should be around 18 minutes or so. But yes, we are going to revisit this topic in a couple of weeks because it is just a very relevant topic to what's going on in the world, unfortunately. But I don't want this video to be too long because you do have a video to watch as part of your content for the week, and so I don't want to overload you with video content, if that makes sense. So let's go ahead and get into that state of the course update. First things first. I know I've said it before and I am still working on it, y'all, but yes, as far as getting caught up on grading, I am still trying to get that done. Just a lot of things just flying around, at the school, different responsibilities and that sort of thing. We had a lot of applicants, to the program this time around this spring, which was good. That's always good news to see the program growing and staying strong. But at the flip side of the coin is I am one of the people on the admissions committee, and so there was that pulled me away last week, getting things squared away for admissions. So when I was trying to catch up on this class last week, that actually got things interrupted there. But I do plan to, I'm recording this on Tuesday, March the 10th, and starting on Wednesday, March the 11th, I do plan to just go hard with this class, hopefully getting your first papers graded out within 3 days, and then after that, getting caught up on discussion board prompts. So I am trying, you all, and I'm sorry that I'm falling behind, but I care about y'all. I want y'all to know that, and when I'm not on my game as far as getting things back to you as quickly as I want and grading things as quickly as I want, believe me, I'm not just slacking around and, slacking off. There are other things going on. So just be mindful of that. Grades are coming, and I appreciate your patience. So let's see what else we've got going on. Yes, I did put the announcement about Stuart Hines's class that's taught on UMKC's campus. If you want some more information about that class, just reach out to if you need Stuart's email address, I can provide that to you as well, because I did not include it there, and it may be linked there for all I know, but anyhow. Yes, if you want me to link you up with Stuart for whatever reason, just let me know, and that won't be a problem. He would love to hear from y'all. He was a great guy, and again, I was very pleased, just like with the first sync session, I was very pleased with this sync session and y'all's participation and the appreciation that you all showed. I could tell that the material was resonating with y'all, and I am very, very happy to see that. So keep it going. I will say that, and I'm just going to keep it real, and I'm going to say some more about this when it gets closer to Cassie's presentation. Cassie will be speaking to us in April. Cassie Clark from Where the Dogwood Blooms, and I'm just going to let you all know right now, you're probably actually not going to enjoy her presentation quite as much as you enjoyed Josh's and Stuart's. But the thing is, Cassie, I really do believe this, folks, and again, I'll get deeper into this when it gets closer to time, but I really do believe that as cultural heritage workers, you have to be able to, if you are a leftist, as most of us are, you have to be able to reach across the aisle, and there are a lot of right-wing people who do heritage work and that sort of thing, and Cassie is one of them. Cassie is a Republican. She's a Trump voter. She despises the Democratic Party in North Carolina, all the things, and some of the things that she will speak about, you all probably won't agree with as much. I saw that you all were pretty much in agreement with a lot of the things that Stuart was saying and a lot of the things that Josh was saying. I think y'all are going to find some room to disagree with Cassie when she speaks. I certainly disagree with Cassie on a lot of issues. I pretty much speak to her probably every other week at this point, probably 2 to 3 times a month. And yeah, she is not, the thing is, we've learned how I was raised in an environment in the rural South where I had to get along with conservative white people, and they had to get along with me, and we made it work. We've made that work in the South for generations, in the small town South for generations. But for those of you who aren't really familiar with that type of dynamic, yeah, it might strike you a little bit. But again, you've got to be comfortable. I've never believed in the whole safe space concept where people are being on college campuses basically saved from certain rhetoric. Nah, I've never been down with that. We have to be willing to be uncomfortable and sit with uncomfortable truths and uncomfortable rhetoric. And so there will probably be quite a bit of that with Cassia's presentation, but please, again, just respect where she's coming from and know that if you do talk to her, if you have a conversation with her, even if you find yourself disagreeing with the things that she believes, like for instance, one of the things that she believes in, and I strongly disagree with, is she does believe in Confederate preservation, Confederate heritage and preservation. I believe you can put Confederate stuff in the museum, but no, I don't think there should be statues of Confederate figures in the public square. She does. We strongly disagree about that, and our disagreements can get contentious. But having said that, we have to make it work, and you all are going to have to make it work throughout your cultural heritage careers as well. So might as well get used to those uncomfortable conversations now, because they are coming, whether you like them or not. But as far as what we got on tap for this week, yeah, let's go ahead and make me small here and send this back over here. And again, I want to remind you all to be mindful of the fact that even though, yes, you don't really have anything going on as far as major assignments within the next couple of weeks, I do want you to, again, be aware that there are going to be several things just kind of hitting you back to back to back. The mini interview is going to be due on March the 30th. And then also from there, the midterm quiz, which again, as I've mentioned before, midterm quiz is probably only going to take you about 10 minutes at the most. It's open book. It's very easy. Don't stress out about that, but just know that it's on the horizon, due on April the 5th. And then on April the 12th, you will have your second paper. So, and I'll definitely have your, again, I'm hoping to have your papers back to you this week, but I'll get them to you in plenty of time so that you can use that feedback and make sure that if you lose any points, that you can correct things for the second paper. So don't worry about that. And yeah, that's pretty much what you need to know for right now. I do want to go into this week's module really quick because there is something that I kind of want to bring your attention to. So, and I see that some of you have even actually already, you got an early start, you actually already looked at the parts of the video and that you're required to look at, which is, you can watch the whole thing if you want, but you might get bored with it, but you are required to watch the first 45 minutes of it. That's where really the bulk of the content that I wanted you all to be exposed to came from. But what I want you all to be aware of is that, and this is very unfortunate. So this was from a few years ago, and one of the things that I want to bring to your attention is that
better guitar player. Keith Richards is a better guitar player.
So Bill, that's my buddy Bill there. I did want to bring to your attention that last year Bill was diagnosed with a terminal illness and he is not doing well. He actually just lost his wife last week, and he is again just not doing well. He is wheelchair bound and just a shell of his former self from what you see here, and it's actually really, really hard and challenging to know that he is going through this. But I did want to just mention that to you all. So if you are of faith, keep him in your prayers and that sort of thing. Keep his family in your prayers as well, because again, they his children just lost their mom last week, and that's certainly not a pleasant experience. So to lose your mom and for your dad to have a terminal illness as well and be on his way out. So yeah, just be aware of those things. But I'm glad that I was able to capture this legacy of Nitsnats with him while he was still in good health and still doing his thing there. But this is an interview from a few years ago. Okay. And truthfully, I think that really pretty much does it for the State of the Course update. Let's from there, let's go ahead and shift into talking about war and what's going on there. Okay. All right, my great students. So one of the things that I do want you all to just be, again, kind of aware of is that when we have war, we're not just losing people who in and of themselves are cultural heritage. As I've mentioned before, there's that African proverb that basically says that every time somebody dies, we basically lose a library. We lose a lot of oral, or an archive. We basically lose a lot of oral tradition. We lose just a lot of knowledge with the death of anyone, especially an elder, but even a child. We just lose a lot when somebody dies. But in addition to the human cost, we war brings the destruction of cultural heritage every single time, sometimes deliberately, sometimes not deliberately, but collateral damage. But either way, it's a shame. As somebody who, studies cultural heritage and appreciates it for what I feel it does, which again, I feel that if we all understand cultural heritage in its proper context, really, I feel that that could lead to as close to world peace as we could get, if we had appreciation for culture and cultural heritage. And it would help us all realize that there are some things, some commonalities in our DNA. And that is why every single culture on earth has music, every single culture on earth has food, every single culture on earth has dance, and so forth and so on. That's not an accident. That is somehow, I don't know scientifically how to explain it, but somehow that is imprinted in our human DNA. And if we would all understand that, we would realize that, yeah, we aren't so different. And, we, our differences are beautiful things. And that I just think that if we had a greater appreciation for that, we would see a lot more peace. But as it stands, what we have going on is a lot of resource fighting and rare earth minerals and that sort of thing that we are trying to get. And that leads to these armed conflicts. So here we go. Having said that, and I am planning to link these things in the announcement, there are going to be situations where you don't even know the damage that has been done for a few years. And I think that, so I'm going to show you just a few things. And again, I'll also link these things in the announcement. But I think being aware of these things, it kind of highlights that, yeah, there are tolls, cultural heritage tolls, that are paid with the cost of war, and we don't even know the extent right away. So even though this interview is apparently from only a few days ago, it is related to damage that was done nearly 3 years ago, back in October of 2023. So this was the first one that I wanted to kind of play for you. Hold on. All right, so yeah, let's get this guy going.
Amid the rubble of the Amari Mosque, volunteers work to save what's left of its extensive library. After being hit by Israeli strikes in December 2023, the building is littered with dust and rubble, putting its collection at risk.
I was shocked and stunned when I saw the extent of the destruction in the library. I couldn't bear it and felt compelled to save these books. So we took it upon ourselves to launch a volunteer initiative to work on rescuing whatever we could from the library.
Situated in the old town of Gaza City, the Amari Mosque's library contains books on subjects including medicine, Islamic law, and literature, as well as ancient manuscripts. Saving the books is a delicate process. Volunteers wear gloves to remove dust with paintbrushes and pick through the burnt remains of texts to see what can be rescued. The library once held the third largest collection in Gaza, but more than 3/4 of the books have already been lost.
The western part of the library was burned. The library was estimated to contain about 20,000 books, but currently we are left with fewer than 3,000 or 4,000 books.
The mosque's origins as a religious site date back more than 2,000 years. Intentionally damaging cultural sites can be considered a war crime under international law. The UN's cultural agency, UNESCO, has verified damage to 150 sites in Gaza since the start of the war. These include 14 religious sites and 115 buildings of historical or artistic interest.
All right, so a lot of key points to take in there, but I think one of the main key points to take in is, again, that was volunteer work, okay? And so another key point, I believe it was either 2/3 or 3/4, they said, was already lost and couldn't be salvaged. And you're looking at things about like even medicine, wisdom, all sorts of subjects. But these are volunteers that are going in and doing this work. And there's only so much reliance that you can get out of volunteers, because volunteers have to still sustain themselves. They have to make money to eat. They have families to raise. They have all these other obligations. So volunteers can't be relied on but so much. And yet preservation of this cultural heritage is dependent on volunteers. And that's never optimal, folks. So, I mean, this is, and I am glad that it also made the point that deliberate damage of heritage sites can be seen as a war crime, and that's something that, again, will come up in a module in a couple of weeks. But again, just an all-out shame, and this it probably took them over 2 years to really see what had been lost and to get an idea of what had been lost and what needed to be done in order to salvage what was left. Because again, these were strikes from 2023. And so again, as I just speak further and further on this, what I would say is, for one thing, I was actually trying to Google around and try to find recent, as in maybe since the last week or two when things really started to escalate over there in Iran. I was trying to find out in the surrounding areas, of course, I was trying to find some things that were speaking about cultural heritage damage within the past 2 weeks, and I can't even find it. So that information isn't even out yet. You're mostly getting the human toll and some of the other things, the human casualties and that sort of thing. So now I was able to find this, but this is from January, but this is still disturbing that even back in January, in Iran, there were over 50 public libraries that were damaged in the recent unrest there. And certainly with what's going on right now, I'm sure that this number has jumped dramatically. What's been damaged since the start of the new year has probably gone through the roof. And we probably, again, we in the Western world may not even ever fully know this type of damage because, and the extent of it, because there are going to be the news sources aren't really focused on that. I think that and I'm not trying to get into, being pro-Israel or pro-Palestine or whatever the case may be. I'm not going there right now. But what I do want to say is that I do believe that our Western news sources are still more sympathetic to the Israeli cause, and to Zionism to a certain extent. And so we may not ever, through our Western media and information sources, we may not ever understand the true damage that was done to these, the extent of the damage that was done to these sites in Iran. I don't believe that our media is as friendly to Islam and to Muslims as it is to Christians and Jews, to be honest with you. Now, if you want to debate me on that, I'll just let you have it. I don't debate those kind of things, but that's based on my observation. I do believe that what happens in the Muslim world and what happens to Muslim people is of slightly less interest to our Western media sources. But I do also want to come back here and say that I don't want to portray that I'm anti-Israel either. And so one of the things that I did want to note was, Israel has also suffered some damage here. White City in Tel Aviv, they were damaged. That was damaged. This is a architectural site, that was damaged by Iranian missiles on February the 28th. And then also you have Israel's National Theater that was also damaged by Iranian missiles at the end of February as well. And if you scroll down here, you will also see that there are some things that are tied to the Islamic faith, but also in the region that have also been damaged. This is the Islamic Museum Art of Jerusalem. So that is in Israel, but it's related to Islamic art. Again, damaged. And they are actively working to safeguard their collections and that sort of thing. And it seems like there are going to be a lot of places scurrying to kind of safeguard their collections. And that is, again, very unfortunate because this cultural heritage stuff, the cultural heritage hasn't hurt anybody, folks. It just really hasn't. And this is stuff that, again, these cultures should be allowed and empowered to preserve and that sort of thing. This stuff should not be things that we are having to dedicate time in order to, save. We should be able to respect the fact that once heritage is lost, it is lost for good. And heritage is the one thing, well, not the one thing, but heritage is one thing that should be passed down from generation to generation. It is heritage. It is our inheritance. And so the destruction, I don't want to, because I don't want to sound like an a-hole. So I don't want to say that the destruction of the heritage is worse than the loss of human life. It absolutely is not. But what I am going to say, and I hope you all don't think I'm a jerk for what I'm about to say. I'm about to say something that's probably going to be a little controversial. I feel that human life is finite anyway. Like, I feel, don't get me wrong, nobody should be dying in war, and certainly I don't want to see anybody die in war. My dad served in Vietnam and was permanently disabled through his service in Vietnam. So, I don't take these things lightly, but what I'm going to say is that all human life comes to an end. But the cultural heritage is, again, supposed to be passed down. It's supposed to be heritage. It's supposed to be inheritance. So the human life we were going to lose eventually, that does not mean that we should lose it artificially through war. We absolutely should not. And certainly, like the news that an Iranian school was hit by a missile strike a few days ago and children died. That is absolutely unacceptable. Those children did nothing to hurt anybody, and they should not be paying the cost for this war that a bunch of old men with attitudes and egos started. Absolutely not. But again, I think that heritage even goes in a different direction, because heritage is supposed to be there when the people are gone. Even when the people pass away, the heritage is supposed to still live on. And the heritage can't live on if it's destroyed in war. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple more things and then we'll be done. I tried to keep this at 25 minutes, but it's probably going to go to 27, but that's still not that bad, I don't believe. This is going to be tricky. Let me do this and then scroll back up. This is very important, again, to show what's happening in Iran right now.
Jesus said, if you don't know.
Images are emerging of one of Iran's most beautiful cities being struck by U.S. and Israeli bombardment. Now, one of those sites, Chehel Sutun, has been damaged by U.S. and Israeli bombardment just meters away. This video, released by state media, shows windows shattered and latticework broken. Elsewhere in Esfahan, striking images show the Nakhshe Jahan Square with a plume of smoke from an airstrike, highlighting the proximity of this war to Iran's historic and cultural landmarks. And in Tehran, the Golestan Palace, the setting for many coronation ceremonies of Iranian kings, famous for its intricate mirrorwork, now left in ruins, shattered by debris from shockwaves of an airstrike. Images show extensive damage to what UNESCO calls a masterpiece of the Qajar era. The UN's World Heritage Arm has put out a statement expressing concern and a reminder: cultural property is protected under international law. Images are emerging.
All right, so yeah, again, that point is made. Heritage is protected by international law, and this should not be happening. And it is devastating that it is happening, but I wanted to kind of show the video so that you could kind of see video with what was happening. I'm going to show you two more things, and then we'll wrap up here. First is that I do want to just also remind you all that this is not just happening in the Middle East, so I'm not going to go too deep into this. You can read it on your own if you want, and this is actually from August of last year. But Russia's attacks destroyed 60,000 books at the Sumy State University. I hope I'm saying that right, Sumy State University, which is in Sumy, Ukraine. So obviously, Ukraine is not the Middle East. We're talking about Eastern Europe here. But even in Eastern Europe, we're seeing the same sort of things. 60,000 books, probably among those things, just manuscripts that will never be replaced, things that are now lost to history. And for what? I couldn't even tell you, honestly, why the Russia-Ukraine war is going on. I don't get it. I mean, I at least know the cultural influences that are going on with Iran and Israel and that sort of thing, but I could not tell you for the life of me. I guess it's a resource war, why this situation started with Russia invading Ukraine, but whatever it is, it was not worth that. And finally, let me just show you this real quick and then we'll wrap it up. So maybe I will make it at my 25-minute mark or just a little bit beforehand. So Blue Shield warns of potential war crimes against Iran's cultural sites. Now, I'll leave it up to you if you actually want to dive in and read this whole thing as an optional reading. But the main thing that I want to be clear here is that there are global museum and heritage organizations that are expressing concerns. So people aren't silent about this. There are organizations that are already expressing concern about these things being destroyed in Iran and in other places in the Middle East. And UNESCO is, they've got some involvement as well. And so, my hope is that, again, these things are safeguarded, that they identify at-risk places, which this does go on to talk about some things that have been identified as at-risk sites, but I hope that at-risk sites are protected as best as we can. Of course, protecting human life is the number one goal, but I do hope that the number two goal, or close to the number two goal, is after protecting human life, is going to be protecting the at-risk sites and the materials they're in and that sort of thing. Because again, once these things are gone, they're gone. And for somebody like me who cares so much about cultural heritage, that is an absolute tragedy in and of itself. So yeah, I just want to leave you all with that. And we will probably revisit this again in a couple of weeks. We will have a module that is very relevant to this topic and what's going on in the world. But until then, I am Dr. Jace, and destroying cultural heritage in warfare is definitely a disgrace, and I will always preach against it, and I hope you all will as well. All right, I will see you next week for another check-in video. Thank you so much.